Hi, welcome to new topic, the Agile Modeling, Prototyping and Scrum. So this is our topic today. We are going to dive on this new methodologies of modeling and developing a new system through those techniques and methodologies of Agile, Prototyping and Scrum, which is quite really interrelated to each other, and it is system development based. So we start with agile modeling. What is agile modeling in fact? Agile modeling is a practice-based methodology for effecting model and documentation of software-based system. So it is a systematic method. Um, it is a practical. It will enhance the modeling aspect and as well as the documentation of the development of the software. So we will uh, give more details explaining what is the value of agile, what is the best practice of it, and the also will discuss the principles and so on. Agile modeling, but first prototyping. The prototyping and RAD or rapid application development can also be used as alternative method to the SDLC or system development lifecycle. So Agile modeling is a collection of innovative users-centered approaches to system development. For the prototyping is an information gathering technique useful in seeking user reaction, suggestion, innovation, and revision plan. So prototyping and the RAD, as we said, it can be used as an alternative for the methods of SDLC that we talk about it in on the previous classes. Prototyping is an experimental process where design teams implement ideas into a tangible form, from paper to a digital. So you can see here in the picture that we start with idea, with intangible idea, some innovative idea, then it transform to a digital form, then into a system, into a tangible system. So that's what we mean. Prototyping is writing down the steps or the features of system or software that will be functioning in and being like tangible assets for sell or for use. Okay, so as we said, prototyping is an experimental process where design teams implement ideas into tangible forms from paper to digital. In the prototyping, the information gathering process allows the analyst to set up the priorities and also redirect the expenses to minimize the expenses and as well minimize the disruption of the process. So during this process of gathering information, it will help to reduce the cost by transforming the idea or the what we call the intangible idea into tangible software. Okay, so that is the main idea about prototyping. There are four types of prototyping approaches. One is batchup, non-operational, first of a series, and selected features. We will discuss those kinds of prototyping in details. For the first kind of prototyping, batchup prototype, from the name that it looks that the prototyping or the first idea is or the features is like combine everything, but it is insufficiently work. You can see it's like the breadboard. So a system that works but is batch up or batch together, a working model that has all features but it is insufficient. Users can interact with the system along the process of developing this system, and retrieval and storage of the information may be insufficient. So in engineering, this approach is referred, as we said, as a breadboarding. Users can interact with the system, getting customized and getting familiar to the interface and the type of output available in the system. The second approach, or the second kind of prototyping, is non-operational scale model. So what we mean by non-operational scale model, meaning that this model is not operational, it's not sufficient. This prototyping, so it cannot, it's not yet sufficient due to several reasons. Maybe the expensive coding process, uh, so they will rely on only some features, an idea, then just to approach or to model the new system. So a non-working scale model that is set up to test certain aspect of the design only. Okay, so a non-working scale model of information system may be produced when the coding required by the application is too expensive to prototype. So it's too expensive to prototype this coding. So instead of prototype the whole system, like what we say in the previous type of prototyping, the Batchup. So everything is there, and it's kind of interacting with the users. But this one is only based on several useful idea of the system, which can gain through the prototyping of the input and output only, not the processing. Because processing, as we said, it's due to difficulties or not yet clear or expensive. So we rely on input, output ideas, and then we prototype based on this several aspects of features of this feature system. The third type is first of a series prototyping. So this one is based on creating a pilot prototyping or system. This first full scale model of a system, um, it's completed for operation. So it's a complete system, and it is useful when many installation of the same information system are planned. A full-scale prototype is installed in one or two locations first, and if it is successful, the duplicates are installed at all locations based on the customer usage buttons and other key features. So this one, or this system, is based on the RAD. The creation of a working model is one of the type of prototyping done with RAD, or rapid application development. Then the fourth one is selected features prototyping. Uh, so you can see from the feature, from the blocks here, yeah, we select, let's say, this feature and this one and this one, number 1, 3, 5, but we skip some other features here and there. So that is what we mean by this approach or type of prototyping. So building an operational model that includes some but not all of the features of the final system will that we will have. Okay, some but not all essential features are included. So we just focus in the essential and the very important features only. So build in models, part of the actual system, is part of actual system. So this figure is showing and demonstrating the four kinds of prototypes. So we we can see the first one is the Batchup prototypes. You can see that all features or the system is complete, but it is insufficient to use still, in the initial stage. Okay, so but it is all features of the system is gathered in one prototype. Whereby for non-operational prototype we have the selected prototype based on input and output only, and then we didn't rely on the process yet. The reason is because of the, let's say, the cost, the time of coding the prototyping, or transfer the idea or into a real system. Then first of series prototype, it's based on full scale model. We bring all the features of the system, we prototype it, but we implement it or in one location or two location, and it is this kind of prototyping is useful when there is a rapid information rapid system used in many locations, okay, or many branches. Okay, so like sales room system and so on. And then the selected features prototype, where we select only some main features and we prototype it, and if it is successful, users react into it positively, then we project it to a bigger size, and we focus in the other features. Now let's talk about users' role in prototyping. Do we need users to be part of the prototyping process? So we should understand that users playing a crucial role in prototyping process. Without them, in the prototyping process, the prototype has less effective and less meaningful process, because uh, they will produce they are the one who will use the final product or final software, so they need to react, review, and give their story of experience in using the prototype prototyping system. Okay, so the role of the system analyst is to have honest involvement of users, not only artificial. So the and also they need, or the system analysts need to communicate the purpose and the objectives of the prototype clearly to the users, and they should expect and encourage users to give suggestions for changing, expanding the prototype and innovation. So to facilitate the prototyping process, the analyst must clearly communicate the purpose of the prototyping to the users, along with the idea that the prototyping is available only uh, it will be only valuable only when the users are meaningfully involved in the prototyping process. Let's talk now about the values and principles of agile modeling. The first the first value is communication. So we should have in the agile modelers should have good communication and communication skills, and they should have in mind the simplicity. Make it simple as possible as can be, and the feedback from users of the system should be it should be very crucial, very important. So it should be one of the modelers or agile modelers passionate about it. Okay, then the courage. The courage. also is the one of the very, very important agile model value. So the agile modelers possess the self-confidence to allow their customers or users to question, criticize, and sometimes complain about the system under development. The analyst learn from the customer's story of using the system, who have been in business as a long time. I mean the users or the customers who knows better than the system analyst about the system operations, about the system issues, and so on. So agile modelers or the system analyst should be courage, thinking about those values. So communication with the users, make it simpler, and serving the users. The feedback from them is very important to the agile modeling system, and the courage to build an effective quality software or system. So this is just explain this figure is explaining the same thing. So the value are crucial to the agile approach. So we have, as we said, we have communication, simplicity, feedback, and courage, which reflected into the agile values. Let's have a look into the agile modeling basic principles. First principle is satisfying customer through the delivery of working software. So we should ensure that the software, the working software, is has been developed based on the customer satisfaction, through, for sure, through the getting the experience, or what the customers is looking for, and then impress the change, even if this change introduced in late in development. And this can be happen to by having the attitude of keeping all options open, to have open mind for the as a developer, or system developers or system analysts. But we also want to be able to solve whatever obstacles that we face as system analysts or system developers. And then encourage, then continue to deliver functioning software or working software in incrementally and frequently. So we keep doing changes, ensuring that we do some changes time by time. Okay, then encourage customer and analyst to work together in a daily basis through the interaction between the customers or the system users, the future system users, and the analyst. In order to, we need to have in mind that the system analyst is those, they are not the one who will use the system later on, and the customers are the main users, and they experience and they are surrounded with the environment of business and operation through the system. So the system analyst should keep in mind that they should work and being motivated to work with customers or users in a daily base. And then we should trust and motivate the individuals, those who are having courage to get the work job, or to get the job done in a quality base. So encouraging quality work. So all participants want to do the quality work. That is what one of the principles here. And then also promoting face-to-face conversation between agile modelers, or even with users, and then concentrate on getting software to work making sure that we transform the idea and the prototyping into tangible software or digital software. Okay, and then encouraging continuous, regular, and sustainable development. Lastly, adopt the agility approach. Agility or flexibility with attention to mindful design. Okay, and then support self-organizing team. Then we have providing rapid feedback in order for human or the system to make connection between the motivation or the intention and the reaction, and then the feedback must be happen in a timely manner in order to consider it as very important. Then encourage quality. We should encourage quality work, review and adjust behavior occasionally, and adopt simplicity. The the assumption of simplicity, it solve over 90% of the problems can be solved with uttering and believing in simplicity. Okay, now let's look into the activities. We talk about agile modeling values and principles, and now let's have a look into the activities. Basically, when you look into the activities here, you will find that it is distracted or built based on the value of agile or the principles of agile. So the first one is coding, and coding is the most valuable things that we receive from the code, which is we learn and we try to do coding and programming. And then testing is a kind of remember when we talk, make sure that the system that we prototype is working, is functioning, and so on. So that is what we how we do it through the testing process. So testing, the agile approach views automated test as important or crucial. And then listening is based on the feedback, and working together with users and communicate, having communication value with the users and customers. So listening in agile approach is done in extreme level, receiving rapid feedback and so on. And then lastly, the designing is a way to create a structure or organize all of the logical idea being gathered from the coding up to the feedback and listening from the users. Then we provide a quality work or system. Okay, so now let's have a look into each one of this. We start with coding. So coding is one of the activities that is not possible to do without. So we cannot have system without doing having coding. Then the most valuable thing that we receive from the coding is learning. We learn things from listening and testing, and then we do coding again and again. Okay, and then the code can also be used to communicate ideas that would otherwise remain fuzzy or unshaped. So we sometimes we have many ideas, but some of this idea cannot be codified. We cannot do the program. So through translating or transforming those kind of fuzzy ideas, throwing ideas here and there through through from users, and we try to translate it and reflect it into coding system. So coding system is a kind of learning process, learning stage where the programmers learn whether it can be done or not. And then testing. Testing is automated testing is, as we said, is very important in the agile, as one of the agile basic activity. uh, Write test to check the coding functionality, performance, and the conformance, and then use automated test. Then lastly, large libraries of tests exist for most of programming languages like Python and Java and so on. So you can have use that kind of ready test there. These are updated as a necessary during the project. In testing, we should consider short-term testing and long-term testing. For short-term testing, it gives extreme confidence in what we are building, and we know in a daily base that, or in a weekly base, okay, we have these problems and so on, so we should overcome those obstacles and so on. Whereby for testing in a long term, it helps to keep the system alive and allows for changes longer than would be possible if no tests were written on or run on. The third agile modeling activity is listening. So listening is done in extreme, so it is intensively activities that done by the analyst. Okay, so developers use active listening to hear their programming partner, and because there is a less reliance on a formal writing and communication, listening skills is a vital. Okay, and developer also use activity listening with the customer, so with the users. Okay, listen to them. Why they listen to the users? They need to listen as much as possible to the users, to because developers assume that they know nothing about the business, so they must listen carefully and uh, very very much and extremely listen to the business people. So to conclude all of the basic activities, the three basic activities, by doing the coding and then testing and then extreme activity, active listening from the program partners or the customers, and then we should translate all of that activities into good designing. So designing is a way of creating a structure to organize all of the logic in the system, and then designing is evolutionary, and so the system are conceptualized as evolving, or how to say, it's developing, uh, and it is always being designed, so always being designing that logical idea, or things that we gather from gathering the information process and testing and so on. Remember, good design is often simple. So simplicity is, as you remember when we talk about the one of the main value of agile modeling is simplicity. As a developers, we should consider that the whatever we design, the design should allow flexibility, and the effective design locates logic near the data. So the data we get, or the output, should have meaningful or reasons to have that kind of data. So in which this design or this data is operate, so we are expecting that there is a logic for that output. Design should be useful to all of those who will need it as the development effort proceeds. In agile modeling, we should have great attention to balancing the four resources control variables, which is the time, the cost, the quality, and the scope. So when these four control variables are properly included in the planning of the agile modeling, there is a state of balancing between those resources and the activities needed to complete this project. The core agile practices, we have four here, four core practices. First is short release. So the development team should comprise and ensure the short release of their product or of the system as possible as can, in order to get the first impression or the story from customers or users about the first prototyping or the first uh, functional system. Okay, and then the second one is 40 hours work week. So they should have this culture that working not only giving a spare time to work in the development process. They should give 8 hours a day in doing this in doing the system or development of the system. Then on-site customer, this means that a user who is expert in business aspect, so should allocate the time and work as in on site during the development process, meaning that allocating one expert person to be closely work with the development process of the system. And then lastly is the bear program. So you as a team or agile development team, you work with another programmer of your own choosing. So you choose someone else, another one, to assess the programming in order to have, let's say, different experts and so on. Okay. This figure is demonstrating a holistic picture about the agile modeling. So we can see here we have the agile values, we have the agile activity, and we have the agile core practice and agile resources. Here we can see, and we can see that they are interrelated to each other. We have under the agile value, we have the simplicity, the feedback, the communication, and the courage, and it is connected to the agile activity, which is having coding, testing, listening, and designing. And then this also is both values and activities are related to the agile resources in terms of timing, cost, quality, and scope. And all of this, either resource values and activities, are related to the agile core practice, which is the short release, 40 hours work week, and on-site customer and pair programming. So you can see how the holistic is the agile system based on those four core element of agile modeling, which is resources, values, activities, and core practices. Now let's look into the steps of agile development process. So starting by listening, drawing, creating, developing, and creating again. So listening for user's story. By listening to from user's story, we gain and gather information, and then we draw a logical workflow model, and then we create new use story based on the logical model. So we create how to say uh, initial logical model based on the story we listen, okay, and the drawing that we have here. And then we develop some display prototypes. So we start with the prototype based on the idea that we gathered here. Okay, then lastly we create a physical data model using the feedback from the prototypes and logical workflow diagram. Since we start with listening to the story from the users, so we should understand that user story serves as a reminder to the developers that they must hold conversation devoted to those requirements. So the spoken interaction between developers and users is very crucial. So we need to listen as a developers team or agile developer team to the users and listen to their stories, and then seeking first and foremost to identify the valuable business users requirements. And the goal for user stories is to prevention of misunderstandings or misinterpretation of users requirements. This figure is explaining, uh, giving an example of user story, which how it can be recorded on a card. So in this example, from the online merchant, the analyst indicates here that the designing activities will take above average effort, and the time and quality resources are required to raise above the average. So you can see here we have here the activities. We have coding, we have testing, we have listening, we have design, and in terms of resources, we have here the time, the cost, the quality, and the scope. So we see here the below, well below. This is how to evaluate and assess those activities and resources. So in terms of, let's say, the cost in for the cost is how to say below the average for one for for these resources. But for the coding, the work is average, and the testing is average, whereby the design is and the time need above average in terms of the designing process and the timing. So how we say that, how we come out with this coding or this assessment is based on the story, this story. So the need or opportunity apply shortcut methods for faster checkout. So if the identify of the customers is known and delivered address match, speed up the transaction by accepting the credit card on file, and the rest of customers preferences, such as the shaping method. So we in terms of, let's say, designing, need somehow need time, and also need more budget and cost and timing. So we talked today about the agile modeling in terms of, we define the agile modeling. It's practice-based methodology, very systematic to bring together the documentation and the software development in very systematic, based on to ensure the fast development process with lowest cost. We have discussed several things in terms of the prototyping types. We have four types of prototypings. We also discuss the agile modeling activities, the agile modeling principles, the agile modeling values, and the resources. We also discussed the steps of agile modeling, starting by listening, and then drawing, then creating initial prototyping, then again designing and creating a system. Okay, so we also highlight the story or the user story as important things, and we give example how to translate the user story into by the agile resources and also the activities. Next, we will talk about one of the related topic about in agile in the next video is the Scrum.